Hey, Tom Rabbit! I hope you got this for your recording. Hey, YouTube out there. Tom Rabbit likes to record these. Hey, Tom Rabbit!
At least to me, it does.
Jerry, can I ask you a question about the you know that argument that Darth oftentimes gives to Muslims? He's got like this go-to argument, like
right,
the relational one, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, that that Allah's autistic, or something like that.
Well, the argument for anyone who's listening is just something like, is Allah personal? Yeah, it's like a flow chart. And then it says, does God have all great making properties? And you have to say, yeah. And then Darth asks, like, was God personal? And they go, yeah. And then he goes, like, well, did you know that to be personal is to be relational? And they're like, yeah. So, like, wait a minute. So, if it's the case that, like, before creation, Allah was the only entity that existed. So how was he relational when there was no one else? Checkmate, Muslim. That's how it goes, you know?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, so why can't, like, the same argument basically be used against the Christian God, but not with respect to relationality, but like any
Creation?
number of other. Well, that would be one, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm familiar.
Like
I'm familiar with
creation, forgiving, any number of different properties like that. Yeah.
Oh, from what I understand, okay, it's the idea that the fact that God is the creator is not a thing that is integral to his very nature. Okay, the fact that God is relational is. God's relational is not contingent. The fact that God is creation, the fact that God created is a contingency. And so if they want to claim that God's...
Just to be, I mean, just look, it's noteworthy for me and people listening. Darth directly disagrees with that. Did you know that? I'm not saying that you have to agree with him or you do agree. I'm just saying that, like, look, this is a not Darth view. Did you know that?
What, that God's creation, or the fact that God is a creator is some sort of, is necessary in the same way that, or like a necessary property set in the same way that relationality is?
Yeah.
I've never heard him say that.
He's listed the necessary properties, and one of them is creator God, omnipotent, omniscient. He's listed that in there.
Oh, well, yeah, he's okay. Well, yeah, I understand the sense in which he's using it. I think he's using it in a different sense than I am. I'm just saying that the fact that he's a creator is not like it's not like a property set that is like posited to be eternal. Hold on a second.
I have another question for JRobin when he gets back. I'm not gonna try and like press really hard about anything. I just want to like hear what he has to say because I don't get this opportunity to like talk to him like this a lot. Anyway, JRobin, what were you saying? We were talking about Darth has a different view.
Oh yeah, right, okay, yeah, creation and relationality. Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, that's fine. It's not really like biggest issue for me. I see it in a way that it's not like it's not something like his very nature is that he's a creator, but it's in his nature that he is personal. Right? So if the Muslim wants to claim that it's not in God's nature or Allah's nature that he's personal, right, then we're just going to say that he doesn't have anyone to relate to in eternity past.
Right, but like, so let's just use one of those examples. So like God, one of God's traits is he's forgiving, and he's maximally forgiving. But who was he forgiving in eternity past?
He didn't need to. But that's not like an issue.
Right, but like, why can't the Muslim just kind of make a similar play and say, look, you know, when an atheist says, hey, God doesn't exist because he's omnipotent, and you know, to ask whether he could make a rock so big he couldn't lift it, it's like you're going outside of like logical confines, right? But I mean, couldn't they say the same thing as like, Yeah, he was maximally relational, and there wasn't anyone there. So, like, you're just it's just basically another version of, can God make a rock so heavy you can't lift?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose so. I'm not. That's why I don't typically use that, because I'm not the most versed in that argument. So I don't use arguments that I'm not the most versed in. So
It's a really good
I'd have
point.
to figure out the implications of
Right. Well,
all those.
I'm not going to press you on it. Look, I just want to get your, like, 10 meter opinion on it, because Darth is of the opinion that almost every single Muslim he comes across, he gives this argument to, and he describes it as a knockdown argument, right? I mean, if once he tells a Muslim that, if they're still a Muslim, he thinks they're, like, insane. But do you think it's a knockdown argument?
Well, I'm not. That's why I'm saying I don't use the argument much. So I'm not going to consider it a knockdown or not a knockdown, because I don't know all the implications and all the counter arguments to it. So, I mean, I think it's interesting that they will claim that God is relational and doesn't have anyone to relate to. But, I mean, I understand, on the same token, that could be
Right.
relayed about God's.
Okay, I accept that answer. Let me ask you another question. This is kind of related. So he says that the Christian God doesn't have this problem, because in eternity past, Christian God is a Trinity. Therefore, it was relational to, like, Jesus was relational to the Father, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes on to say something about, let's see, it has to do with Adam. He says that when he created Adam, and then he says,
oh, right, Adam is not good for him to be alone. But I think I know what you're say.
Right, he
and this
says,
is why I don't use that either, because Adam could relate it to God or something like that. Is that what you're going to say?
Yes, that's exactly
right,
what I was going
right.
to say. Yes.
Yeah, that's why I don't use that argument. That's kind of why I don't, unless, because I haven't really. I have to ask Darth about that, honestly, because I don't.
You don't?
I meant to ask
bad
him,
argument?
Well, if he doesn't have an answer, I would probably say it's not a
bad argument.
Because you just from hearing me, have you thought about that before?
Yes, that's why I knew what you're gonna say, because that's why I don't use the argument, because I don't have an answer.
I'm just saying that, like, look, when I hear him say that, I didn't have to think about it long. I just immediately was like, wait a minute, doesn't everyone have a relationship with God? Doesn't he, like, talk to God in the garden and stuff?
Right. Yeah. That's yeah. Right.
Right. So how is that? So Darth, just for the YouTube people, Darth wants to say he created Adam, right? And then later on he said it was not good. And Darth's interpretation of that is that it was not good because Adam was lacking in the trait of relationality, meaning that he couldn't relate to another, so it was not good, right? But JRobin seems to think the exact same thing I was thinking, which is that he was relating to God, and everybody has a relationship with God, right?
But it is not the same relationship as we have with other humans, which we can.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but it is a relationship.
I was thinking about. Yeah, go
sure,
ahead.
Sure. It's not the same relationship, but it is a relationship, right? You couldn't be talking just about the like property of relationality, right? You would just be talking about a specific relationality, right?
But if you have been single for some time, then you know that it is not good. You want to.
But he wasn't single, right?
Yeah, wouldn't that make Adam like Darth says, autistic? Because he wasn't relational?
Can I ask you a really quick question, JRobin? When you say that miracles are by definition like reality operating contrary to the way it does, do you mean just the appearance of that, or do you mean actually? Because I mean, I just want to bring it. This is another view that Darth and you might differ
on. No, I wouldn't say that it's merely the appearance of something happening. I'd say that normally it's always happening, but I mean, no, I wouldn't say it's just merely the appearance. No.
So it's actually the laws are being broken temporarily?
Well, it's how God Himself instantiated these laws. They're not. I mean, they're not being broken.
Yeah,
it's just that God
but
is.
but God also upholds all laws, right?
Right. Yeah, He does.
With
He
His
upholds
will,
them.
right? So He could
Yes.
possibly say, "Hey, I'm going to will that gravity on this object is not going to work anymore," right?
Sure.
Right. So the Darth view is that miracles aren't actually any kind of break of the uniformity of nature. And he actually makes an analogy about a plane. He just says that miracles are just existing laws that act upon other things. Like a plane, if you drop it, it's going to fall. But other laws, right? Like aerodynamics and aerofoils and lift, operate on the plane to air quotes supersede, the power of gravity. Otherwise, so in Darth's view, it seems like miracles are really just almost akin to like technology that we just don't understand. Just using laws that I guess we don't understand yet.
Yeah, that's potentially the case. I've never heard him say that before, so I'd have to ask him about that.
He would
that
say
could be the case.
He would say that miracles aren't a breaking of natural laws; they're God, like suspending them, and like I don't know what word he would use, but
No,
it's
I
like
don't
some
think he
kind of
says suspend. He
fulfillment
says
or
he says
something.
supersede. He says supersede.
Can I?
But it's just a weird idea because first of all, I mean, how does he know that? I mean, does he think that God could like temporarily like stop a certain law or something? And if I guess maybe he doesn't. First of all, I don't think he would ever answer these questions, so I'm just really spitballing.
But if God
Oh.
instantiates these laws in the first place, then it shouldn't be a big problem for him to suspend them temporarily and in a specific place to achieve a specific goal.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but once he
I mean,
suspends
if
them,
he is
though,
omnipotent, he should be
Does
able
that
to
mean
do
every
that.
time an
Right? If
airplane
he's not
flies,
able
it
to
has
do
to
that,
One
then
at a
he's
time,
not
please.
omnipotent.
it makes miracles kind of relative. Yeah, so a miracle is just like relative to someone from like 1,000 years ago. Is like an airplane flying is a miracle.
I had a question though, for Otangelo maybe, but more likely someone like JRobin. How do you yourself determine what is possible and impossible?
God is the reason why anything is possible and impossible. So,
Yeah, but how do you determine what is possible and impossible?
via His revelation,
I don't understand what that means.
God reveals certain things in Scripture.
Are you saying you relinquish all reasoning to some absorption of God stuff?
Well, it wouldn't.
How
It
do
wouldn't
you
be
determine? How do you determine what is possible and impossible?
Yeah, by revelation. I have a revelatory epistemology. So when you ask me how I determine something, it's going to boil down ultimately to some sort of revelation.
Yeah, but
Well,
has God revealed everything to you? Like,
But
Yes.
how do you determine what 2 + 2 is? Is that
Oh, I
revealed to
mean,
you by God?
there are approximate causes, yes, but I mean, ultimately, yeah, it would be God's revelation.
Yeah, we don't understand what that really means.
That's because when we're talking about facts of existence, all facts of existence indicate God, so they'd be revelatory of God. Therefore, I'd know
Right.
them via the revelation of God.
Well, I mean, okay, but
I can accept all that.
the question is like, how is it indicative? So, for example, if I take apart some kind of product and all the things in the product are like all metric nuts and bolts and stuff like that, that's indicative of it being made, say, for instance, in like not the United States, which typically uses standard measurements, right? But that's going to be because of my background knowledge and me making some kind of like inference and stuff like that. But when you say just revelation, I don't know what that means. Are you saying this is like some kind of inference or something? Like, can you actually walk us through what you mean by that? I don't understand.
Yeah. So like we use reason in the same way, right? We have like logical inference, that kind of thing,
Uh-huh.
because they are revelatory of God. The difference between you and me is that I have a basis for these things. You don't. But other than that, yeah, go ahead.
Can I give you an example? Because this is really in depth, I think, what you're going to get into. But if we have an example like, say I told you that I rubbed two nickels together and a $50 appeared, how would you determine whether or not that was possible or impossible?
Well, I'd use induction. I'd use the scientific method, probably.
How?
The same way you would.
What you'd have to observe it?
The scientific method isn't going to tell you what's possible and impossible.
Oh well, okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I would just,
Maybe the end of
when
it.
it comes to whether or not it's possible or impossible, I don't. I mean, you could presume. So look. Okay, I mean, I haven't. Look, so this is. I would inductively, but given inductive reasoning, I would assume that. Okay, because I'm not above using inductive reasoning. Everyone uses inductive reasoning. That's not the issue, though, right? The issue is whether or not the preconditions for inductive reasoning have been met. So yeah, I would use inductive reasoning. So I would look at instances, previous experience, and through that, right, I would determine, or I would come to a conclusion.
How would you apply inductive reasoning to a miracle?
You wouldn't.
So I don't.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
actually, wait, hold on. That question. Wait, let me just. I mean, I thought about the question for like a little bit longer. Okay, you when you say how do you imply inductive reasoning? Well, you just after observing the miracle, then that would just be added to your tabulation of experience, and then you determine that it's a miracle that it happened outside of.
So it's not. It's phenomenological. It's not epistemic.
But it's something that's possible.
No.
It's
Sorry, go ahead.
something that's possible, which means that it's now added to the category of things that are possible, right? But how do you distinguish that from a miracle and then you just never observing that before?
Well, there are different realms of possibility, different modalities, as I say. So,
some people say.
All right. So certain things are possible within the realm of the physical laws that God has instantiated and that we know of. And then other things are not possible. And then in the instance of miracles, God may act contrary or supervene or intervene, I would say, in those circumstances against those physical laws.
So
So how would you be able to tell?
How would you be able to tell? It would be revealed.
What does that mean, though? I asked you what that meant. I still don't understand what that means.
What, that God revealed to you? In the same way that Jesus revealed that he was miraculous when he healed the sick people.
Meaning that I'm not following.
Well, how did the people that were sick determine that Jesus did miraculous things?
They thought that those things were impossible, so they deemed it a miracle.
Right.
Well, the Bible explicitly says that they were a miracle. So,
Bible says what?
That they were miraculous acts.
Right, but the Bible wrote that after the people already observed it and thought it was a miracle.
Sure. What's
Right,
the
so you asked
contention?
me why they thought it was a miracle. I'm telling you, right? They said, wow, that's crazy. I've never seen that happen. I don't know how that happened. I think that's a miracle. But
Okay,
that's also
fine.
compatible with something that is possibly some kind of natural law or something like that.
Or even technology that they're not aware of, right? Like
Yeah.
like any technology that's sufficiently advanced would seem like magic or a miracle to a person who doesn't understand it, right?
We could also
Yeah,
say
I'm
that
not. Look,
maybe
look. I'm not saying that there are certain things that people may classify as miracles that aren't miracles, and certain things that are not miracles that people may classify, or the other way around. Like I'm not making that claim.
Well, when
Yeah,
you
I
say
got you. Can you just see from like our perspective, like the notion of a miracle is kind of confusing. It's almost like, you know, the notion of something being supernatural, and well, how do we know it's supernatural and not just something natural that we weren't familiar with before, right? Kind of a similar problem.
back
I
then the
mean,
viruses
and
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 diseases may have been a lot lighter than they are now, and it wouldn't have taken as much to cure you of them. But if you weren't, you didn't get your herbs.
Um. Okay, JRobin, can I just ask you one other question? Hold on a second. There's some people on YouTube. They ask questions, and like, look, you just can give a short answer, but let's see. What's this question? Oh God, there's so
I
many
have to
people.
go soon
Okay,
too because
okay.
it's
I'll
getting.
just be really quick. Magellan says, please ask JRobin how he can associate himself with such a clearly vile and abusive narcissistic bully.
I don't consider him a bully.
Okay.
I've said in his presence and to him that I don't agree with the fact that he curses at people. I don't think his general disposition of being very forthright is inherently wrong or anything.
Forthright. Okay.
Another. Ask Jay why he allows / encourages the disgusting. Oh, it's kind of the same thing. Disgusting behavior. You can just answer that quickly. Behavior from Darth. Blah blah blah. Okay. Well, I had one more question, and I don't know is also acceptable. I asked you this before. It's something like, in order to have intelligibility, why is it necessary that God's always truth revealing?
Yeah, because epistemologic. Yeah, because when you're appealing to a revelation, you're gonna have to have. It's gonna be on the basis God's truth, always truth revealing. Otherwise, you don't have any ground to stand on to make claims about infallible revelation. If you accept that God could lie even one time, then you're gonna have to give me limits and substantiate them as to in which scenarios God cannot lie. Or
You
yeah,
actually
right.
just illustrated that the problem is your ability to invoke infallibility. That's all that
No,
illustrates.
it's not an issue of infallibility. It's an issue of the fact that revealing like that he's revealing things truthfully. So maybe I use infallibly the wrong. The point is that God's revealing things and God's revealing them truthfully or accurately, right? And that God is not being deceitful or lying. And so, in a world where you're going to concede that God is, where God is lies, even in one instance, okay, you have to answer and substantiate what limits that there are.
Okay, I'm having trouble following, and it's probably my fault, right? But just for the sake of the YouTube, I'll just go over the example really quickly. So my question was something like, if somebody is dying, like from dehydration, and they're crawling in the Sahara Desert, which is like nothing in any direction for miles, and 1 second right before they die, God whispers into their ear that there's an even number of hydrogen atoms in the universe instead of an odd number, which is the actual case. Why is it that when that happens, halfway around the globe in like New York, when some guy orders a club sandwich in a diner, the waitress can no longer understand him?
Because God's a liar. God's a
What?
deceiver.
But how? I'm trying to. I don't. It's not connected for me though, right? For example, I mean,
Because in such a scenario now, God can
hold on.
lie.
Before you say that, let me just say this. Presumably, like your mother has lied to you before, but she's intelligible, right?
Right, but she like the fact that you might have someone in your day-to-day life feel so or tell something to you, ultimately that's going to be filtered through the worldview that you're espousing or that you're holding to. Okay,
Right.
and in the
I understand. You're
worldview,
saying like the lying is somehow like more on a more foundational level, right? I understand that,
right?
but I'm not. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I want to get it. I don't get it.
Well, I think that all JRobin is
Right.
saying with this is that, as applied to what Tom's example, is that the waitress, the guy ordering, they just can't be certain of anything. That's all JRobin's claim is saying. That if
That's
God
not Darth's
lies
claim, though.
once,
That's not
well,
if I don't. Well, no. JRobin is answering the question that why there can't be intelligibility, right?
right. But what he's saying only implies that those people wouldn't be certain what a club language was. Or
No,
that they had to
that's
have.
false. Intelligibility without intelligibility, JJ, they can't like the analysis of what a club sandwich is like. And there's
Right.
not even going to be a possibility of deliberation over like what's a club sandwich, because that's all those words, all those reference language, all requires intelligibility. So you're just flat wrong.
Well, he's talking about certainty, though. That was his claim. I'm just using
No,
Robin's
I'm
words.
talking about if you're going to espouse a worldview where God is a liar, in the same way you might espouse a worldview where there are true contradictions, then you're going to be in the position of having to explain to us how it is the case or what limits are put in place as to what can and cannot be a contradiction. And if you can't do that, then your worldview is reduced to absurdity.
That's
Okay,
a
so-
slightly different claim, though.
Dialect,
Because before
but JRobin
what you were
dialect
talking about,
do that.
Hold on a
But
sec.
the thing
I don't want to
is-
get. I
Yeah.
don't want to get too off track. You guys are going off the track.
no, I want to go back to the track because that's a different claim. Before he said that you couldn't be certain about stuff. That's what he.
No, I didn't say
it
certainty.
implied.
I didn't invoke
You did,
certainty.
in fact, say certainty. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's sorry. I didn't mean to.
Okay,
I
so you
thought
didn't mean to
it's
say
getting
it.
it's
Fine.
getting late. It's getting late. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go soon.
Okay,
But,
yeah, I understand. Well, just like in a few minutes, we'll let you go. But like, so you're saying, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're saying that it's impossible for there to be intelligibility for the waitress when the guy orders a club sandwich, if God lies. And what I take it to mean by impossible is that like there's some kind of contradiction. Does that sound right to you?
No, I'm dealing. Okay, so when I say contradiction, or when I say that something's impossible, I'm speaking with respect to what God has revealed about Himself and about the world. Okay, when I am addressing another person's worldview, okay, I'm going to address it as to what they're espousing. Okay, and if they're going to tell me that God is lying, that God can lie, then I'm going to need to know the limits as to which, or as to what. As to what the parameters are when God can and cannot lie. So, as with respect to the contradiction issue, no, I'm not. I'm specifically talking about just like their worldview and what they're talking.
Okay, so just to be clear, there's no contradiction between God telling one lie and still having intelligibility.
Well, no, there is because you can't ground. There is because you can't tell it. You can't ground why one state of affairs is one where God can't lie and one is where God can lie.
Huh?
if you're going to espouse a worldview where you're going to explain the limits.
No, this is just like all we're like, this is like thought experiment is like within like the Christian worldview, I guess, right? Like we're saying that like if this was the case under the like the Christian worldview wouldn't allow for this, right? It's like if under the Christian worldview God told one lie, we wouldn't have intelligibility, right?
No, he wouldn't.
Right, but we wouldn't because there's a contradiction.
No, he wouldn't because God's a liar. That would be the
But
case.
why does him telling one lie mean that there can't be intelligibility for the guy ordering a club sandwich?
Because then we can't rationally ground any state of affairs.
But you're just talking about like some sort of epistemic grounding or something. But like for example,
that's what I'm talking about.
I.e., degree of certainty.
I am comparing two worldviews. That's the whole point.
Yeah, but I mean, like similarly, like you're saying that without the uniformity of nature, we couldn't have intelligibility. But let's say you're playing tennis, and then one particle in the Andromeda galaxy zigs when it's supposed to zag. Does that mean like you can't hit the ball around on the court anymore? I mean, one particle that is out of accord with the uniformity of particles and how they operate would mean that there is no uniformity of nature. But I don't see how that one particle would like affect us here.
Well, with respect to God's revelation and the fact that He's always truth revealing, God's revealed that of Himself. And so, if any part of Him were to be lacking or not to be accurate revelation, that we'd be seeing a completely different world. The full metaphysical implications of it shouldn't go into because God has revealed that. The bottom line, God's revealed the fact that He's always truth revealing. That's a necessary part of Himself.
Yeah, I mean that would just be like in conflict with your understanding of God. But like apart from that, I was just trying to tease out like the contradiction solely in the idea of God always being truth revealing and there being unintelligibility. But what you're pointing out is not really a contradiction between being always truth revealing and intelligibility. It's just like you're just kind of saying this is in conflict with the concept of God, so it couldn't happen because He's not that way. But like it's whatever. Like I'm not gonna like press you on it. I mean, I'm thankful for getting answers as much as I did, but I know you have to go, so I'll let you go. If you want to have the last word, go ahead.
No, it's been a good conversation. I think it's been nice.
JRobin, before you go, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Just a little question. So, for what is the entailment of not having intelligibility? That means that people cannot talk among each other without understanding. Is this an entailment of having unintelligibility?
Yeah, I mean, the words wouldn't have meaning, right? We wouldn't have like anything.
That is an entailment, but it's by far not exclusive to that, Tasteless. JRobin, what were you saying?
So people would be able to talk between themselves, but they wouldn't be able to understand each other, or what?
Well,
I don't even think they'd be able to talk.
You couldn't even talk. Yeah, like you couldn't understand the concept of talking. It wouldn't mean anything in a world of unintelligibility.
Okay, that's it. It doesn't sound very good, but okay, if that is the position, that's fine.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. That would be bad.
I heard my name. You were going to ask me something, JRobin? What?
No, I don't.
No, I didn't. I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay.
JRobin, do you think it's possible or impossible that I rub these nickels together and produced whatever, a grapefruit?
I think it's possible, but I'm not. I don't have a rap.
Thank
I don't
you.
have a lot. I don't have a lot of argument.
I'm not going to beg for one.
All right. Look,
Why
go
would
take
you be
Ginger
rubbing
out.
your
Come on,
nipples?
she's begging.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, see you.
We will be here.
Yeah, dude.
Thanks, man.
You see, that was a good, nice conversation.
I want more JRobin.
I agree. It was. I mean, I feel like. I mean, I wanted answers that were better, but I mean, I'll take it, I guess.
I think there's a lot of things
you
he
learn
doesn't want to
anything?
answer.
I mean, I'm more. Actually, I did learn some things. I learned that JRobin has multiple views that are very different from Darth's.
You think Darth
including
argument
that
is weak?
Yeah, he thinks that the Muslim argument isn't a good argument. He thinks that miracles, like ontologically, are something different than Darth thinks. He disagrees with the argument about God said it was not good when it comes to Adam, and it was in virtue of Adam not being able to relate to anybody. He on his own came to the same objection that I had. Yeah, I mean, amongst other things, I'd like to hear him hash it out.
Yeah, probably you can do that in the future. I mean, the guy is good enough. I mean, he wants to have these conversations, right?
No.
What?
I think he would. Well, I think in a sense, yes. I think that he wants to explore these things, but I think it's not the case that he wants to explore it with Darth because, look, come on, let's all be honest here. For JRobin to explore all these things with Darth can be a tricky situation, just
for him,
as far as socially and diplomatically. I mean,
It's like saying you want
done.
to discuss what you did wrong with your dad behind the woodshed. Right?
What?
By the way, did you get that, Tom Rabbit?